Good morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester, Church of Open Minds and Loving Hearts since 1866, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes for our world, and your story are welcome here. Today is a special service, as many of you know, an annual ritual of and celebration of coming of age. In Unitarian Universalism, this is where our youth are asked to share their spiritual journey, their beliefs, as they have engaged with our history over this year, and more deeply with the larger questions of faith, doubt, and spirituality. Thank you for your intention and your courage for sharing today. You can join us after the service downstairs in the Commons for cake and coffee and celebration. You're also welcome to bring refreshments outside on this chilly but lovely spring day this morning as we celebrate. A few brief announcements before the service begins. This Wednesday, we are glad to end our spring programming with a return of a Wednesday dinner. You can find the link in the e-news to RSVP, so a little different than how it used to be in the past, but you can RSVP. We'll have options for indoor or outdoor dining and a beautiful prepared and served meal. So that's this Wednesday at 5:30. You can find the link in your e-news or contact the office to sign up for that. And these next few weeks are eventful here at church. 2 weeks from today is the flower communion, an end-of-year ritual before summer schedules. So you can bring a flower from the roadside or a garden for our communal bouquet. And then the following week, June 12th, we move to one service only throughout the summer at 10 a.m. That Sunday, the service is followed by our annual meeting to hear from leaders about the life and health of our congregation. So June 5th, flower communion. June 12th, one service begins at 10 a.m., followed by the annual meeting. You can find that in your e-news or our website, or contact the office too. We hope to see many of you for all of these events. And we have a special update from Julie Gilkinson.
So, as many of you know, our congregation has been a community sponsor for one of the Afghan families that were sponsored through Catholic Charities to settle in Rochester last November. We have been assisting them since last December. The Gyasi family consists of Kiam, Safia, and their 3 children, Saim, 10, Banasha, 9, and Amin, 5. All are non-English speakers, so through the technology of WhatsApp and Google Translate and charades, we've navigated communication as best we could. It's not been easy. Catholic Charities provided training to a core group of volunteers from this church in December. This group has provided transportation, tutoring, and support these past months. Others of you have assisted by providing household furnishings and gift cards. Thank you so much. In the 6 months since they have arrived, they have made a lot of progress. They have a large apartment well located on a bus line and near shopping. Dad is employed full-time at Geotech. Mom and Amin are finally enrolled in family literacy program at Hawthorne School and take city buses to this program. The older children are students at Riverside Elementary School in the newcomers program. They have gotten connected to the healthcare system and acquainted with how and where they can get food and clothes. A lot of our time is focused on taking care of medical issues, vaccinations, getting a bank account, getting phones, TV, taking care of setting up the internet, getting bikes, and assisting with online learning. Now that the weather is better, we've had some fun outings to various parks and even a bike ride. We have been impressed from the beginning how eager this family is to learn and how appreciative they are of our time and assistance. The true challenge will come when the funding from Catholic Charities ends next month, and they are on their own to pay rent and utilities. 6 months is a short time to learn enough to navigate life here. Many of our team will continue to assist them as a friendship has formed. Again, I thank this congregation and the flexible volunteers who have given time to this family amid the pandemic and when needs often change quickly. A few of us will be in the hearth room after the service, in case you want to skip your cake, or you can get your cake and come up if you have any more questions. Thanks.
These flowers are from Julie in honor of all those who have volunteered to help with this family. Thank you. Thanks for that work. So I invite you to take a breath and let us enter into this time with these words from our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. The opening hymn is Blue Boat Home, 1064. The lyrics are on the screen, or there are hymnals in the back of the sanctuary if you'd like as well. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing.
In this space, who teaches and who is taught? This light reminds me I learn from the inner light of all. Sit, talk, and be with me as we teach and lift one another.
Yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. quicker. By 11, watching time start moving ever quicker. Never rich, so we were out to make that steady figure. Once I was 11 years old, my daddy told me, go get yourself a wife or you'll be lonely. Once I was 11 years old. I always had that dream like my daddy before me. So I started writing songs, I started writing stories. Something about that glory just always seemed to bore me. Cause only those I really love will ever really know me. Once I was 20 years old, my story got told. Before the morning sun when life was lonely. Once I was 20 years old. I only see my goals, I don't believe in failure. Cause I know the smallest voices, they can make it major. I got my boys with me, at least those in favor. And if we don't meet before I leave, I hope I'll see you later. Once I was 20 years old, my story got told. I was frightened by everything I saw before me. Once I was 20 years old. Soon we'll be 30 years old. Our songs have been sold. We've traveled around the world and we're still roaming. Soon we'll be 30 years old. I'm still learning about life. My woman brought children for me, so I can sing them all my songs and I can tell them stories. Most of my boys are with me, some are still out seeking glory, and some I had to leave behind. My brother, I'm still sorry. Soon I'll be 60 years old. My daddy got 61. Remember life, and then your life becomes a better one. I met a man so happy when I wrote a letter once. I hope my children come and visit once or twice a month. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold? Will I have a lot of children who can bore me? Soon I'll be 60 years old. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold? Or will I have a lot of children who can bore me? Soon I'll be 60 years old. Once I was 7 years old. Once I was 7 years old.
Like to invite all of the children up front and the youth as well. Oh, I'm too old to sit down. We got lots of space today. Have a seat. Welcome, welcome. Today is a special service. This is the coming of age service. And who's coming of age? Them, yes. And someday, you will come of age. And some of us came of age a while ago. We don't have to get into that. But it's a process. We all go through life. We all help one another grow and become better. And we all go through these multiple stages of coming of age. And so it's good to help one another. But if we're going to help one another, we sort of have to know one another, right? That helps. It helps. So what we're going to do, we're just going to introduce ourselves to you, and we're going to play a little get to know you game. So we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to say something that we like or like to do. If you like to do it, and this goes for everybody, you can raise your hand, let us know, make some noise, and we're going to get to know one another a little better that way. So I'm Derek. and I really like pizza. Oh, yes! Pizza, 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 pizza. I like eating pizza. I like making pizza. I like looking at pizza. Pizza's great.
Well, I'm Claire, and I like to draw and color. I know all you like to do that. I see you do it every single Sunday. I like to draw all the types of things that you guys do, too.
I'm Riley, and I like to eat tacos.
I'm Millen, and I like to play soccer.
My name's Aiden, and I really love music.
My name's Katrina, and I really love animals. Oh, if you are kindergarten through second grade, you're welcome to go down and what are we doing today? That way? And if you're older than that, you're invited to stay in the service.
I invite you to take a deep breath. Breathe deep the breath of life. Feel below you the earth with its ancient turning, above you the sky, and beyond that the stars shining with their ancient light, holding you in this moment, this breath, here and now. Know that in this house you are named, you are known as beloved, as sacred, as welcome. Invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life and source of love, God of many names and beyond all naming, Spirit of sun and moon, earth and stars, alive within all things. We are all each day asked questions that are hard to answer about who we are, who are our people, what we put our faith or hope in when it feels like the world is falling apart, how we are called to act or to be or to live in the world in service and love, in gratitude and beauty. Knowing this world will break our hearts sometimes, but hopefully break them open to more compassion and love. May we all always attend to the questions of the day, which almost every morning ask us, how will you greet the brokenness and the beauty of this world with compassion, with joy, and with love? Hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you're holding in your own heart this day in joy or sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For the names spoken and unspoken, may we all be held in love and strength. These words of meditation are from Ruth Feldman entitled Detour, a reading chosen by the youth today about the journeys we all make. I took a long time getting here, much of it wasted on wrong turns, back roads riddled by ruts. I had adventures I never would have known if I proceeded as the crow flies. Superhighways are so sure of where they are going, they arrive too soon. A straight line isn't always the shortest distance between 2 points. Sometimes I act as though I'm heading somewhere else, while imperceptibly I narrow the gap between you and me. I'm not sure I'll ever know the right way, but I don't mind getting lost now and then. Maps don't know everything. May it be so. Amen.
At this time of year, I'm always fascinated to read the class slogan of the graduating high school classes. I think this started when I graduated and was frankly surprised to find out that my senior class's slogan was, "Consider the whole." And coming from a farming community, I feel compelled to say that was spelled W-H-O-L-E. I know I didn't have a say in that slogan, and I still don't quite know which whole they were talking about or which I was to consider. So I thought to myself this year and this coming-of-age class, what the slogan would be if I got to choose it. After thinking through my option, I could riff on the class name of Seekers and have a slogan something like Ever Curious. Or I could make a nod to the Sunday morning timing and have the slogan be Sort of Tired. Or we could encapsulate the perennial response given during our weekly check-ins with Doing Fine. However, thinking back on the year as a whole, I've settled on the one. Well, that didn't go as planned. Coming into the program year, we had plans, and then COVID happened, and then life happened, and then they happened again, and again, and again. Through gathering in person and excitement, then being forced into distance learning, and then coming sort of back to in person through last-minute combinations of classrooms or classes, through changes of lesson plans last minute, through last-minute emergency work shifts and family visits, and 1,000 other things that didn't enter into the plan at the beginning of the year. We find ourselves here anyway, and that's okay. Here at the threshold of the coming-of-age ritual, where we get to listen to the beliefs of these youth and participate with them in that ritual, it strikes me as fitting that so many have chosen to talk about the unplanned, unanticipated, and unknowable. Rather than trying to rail against uncertainty and chaos, they explore the tools, values, and means that let them inhabit the nameless spaces, that let them cross the threshold of relationship and conversation and being where nothing can be truly planned. I hope they realize that this threshold is just one of many. Each of us stand on a new threshold every time someone stands up to express what they believe. Each time this happens, we are invited to sit, to talk, and to be with one another. The invitation to express beliefs and then listen to and engage with those beliefs may cause anxiety, But it is my hope for the youth and for each of us to continue to enter those thresholds. Let us meet one another again. Let us face one another again. Let us introduce ourselves to one another again. Let us step through the threshold, perhaps hesitantly at first, then with ever-increasing confidence in a community that will hold us through the uncertainty and the unplanned. Let us step in and then step in again and again and again.
I have been waiting to participate in the coming of age program since I was at least 10, if not before. The idea of coming up in front of the congregation and proclaiming my beliefs was a feat I could not wait to accomplish. I even knew what I was going to talk about. Hi, my name is Claire, and I'm an atheist, or something like that. I was 10. However, upon actually taking the class, I realized that probably wasn't going to work for my belief, because according to coming-of-age guidelines, it could be much more complex and deeper than just a belief in God. So when I first started thinking about things for my credo statement, I didn't. Well, I did, I just thought of absolutely nothing. Blank mind. Absolutely empty. And this was because of my previous experience with religion. I'd always believed religion to be synonymous with God, which obviously wasn't going to work in my case. Eventually, though, this nothingness began to grow into something as I began to dissect my values and beliefs as a human being, and how the nothingness actually correlated ever so slightly to a strong belief of mine. This belief is that listening is one of the greatest tools in the name of progress, teaching us more than constantly arguing and debating ever could. One of the prominent examples I have with this belief happens to me almost every single day. It also has to do with the person most of you know, or the person who reads the picture books every Sunday. Every single day, my mom reminds me to do something. Load the dishwasher, do that missing assignment. Do I always listen? No. This then leads to her reminding me about these things every single day. I eventually do whatever she's asking me to, but it often takes a while. However, once I finally do it, I realize it's much easier doing the tasks in the first place than if I wait and push them off. Regardless of the significance of a seemingly minuscule task, once I think about what it means to my mom, and when I listen to her, it allows me to see the situation from a different perspective. This carries over into other aspects of my life. Do I automatically do what someone tells me to do? No. However, this type of listening has shaped my personal development. While I may not think something is a big deal, I'm getting better at taking a step back and seeing how my actions or inactions are affecting someone else. Listening, in this case, helps me shape how I interact with others. Another example in my life with an experience with listening would be with my grandma, my dad's mom. My grandma has always told me stories about her life and childhood, my dad, my uncles, and family I haven't ever met. Her stories have always fascinated me as she relates her incredible experiences in education and teaching and with her mom and siblings. My great-grandfather died when my grandmother was only 12. My great-grandmother went on to raise 4 children, including my very good aunt, who she was pregnant with when her husband died. When my grandma relays these stories to me, I'm amazed by the resilience of my great-grandmother, especially in the 1950s. My grandma also relates stories of her going to college in the 1960s and with her life experiences about our society and its evolution, as my grandmother often dealt with sexist people and beliefs, as well as changing laws and inflation. Her stories also helped me to learn about my dad's childhood and stories of my late grandfather, who I barely knew. Listening to her is one of my favorite things, and it again teaches me so much about my own life, my attitudes,
and my core values. This type of listening is important because it's important for us to know where we came from and how it shapes our future. A final example of the effect of listening isn't so much a personal experience of mine, but a collective observation about the current state of the world, our country, and our societal values. As I have grown up, I have obviously been exposed to more news and more opinions, some at just the tips of my fingers, due to social media and the internet. Screaming politicians, corruption, and general unease and divide all unfortunately seem to be themes within our communities. With issues like discrimination against minorities and LGBTQ+ people, as well as climate change and reproductive rights, all becoming more intensely debated, it is clear to me that our society often lacks empathy. It is too easy to say, that doesn't affect me, and ignore what others are feeling. However, by truly listening to and trying to understand alternate points of view and perspectives, we can unlock the door to step into another person's position. It can allow us to alter our own thoughts and beliefs by relating to others. For example, it can be easy to say, I don't believe in climate change, but it is much more difficult to ask why someone believes in something and listen to the response, especially when you initially disagree. But by connecting to the other person and listening to their perspective, no matter how wrong you think it is, allowing others to have their say can open up a dialogue in which opposing views can have a conversation and truly understand each other. Now, you're probably thinking, Claire, your credo and these examples have absolutely nothing to do with thinking about nothing. And to some degree, you are correct. But in today's society, not immediately rebutting or arguing with someone who you disagree with can be viewed as doing nothing. I believe that doing nothing can mean listening, because before responding, we should all take a moment to hear what the other person is saying. I truly believe listening to one another is the best way to invoke progress, as it paves the way for more empathy in our society. When we listen, we gain perspective. The perspective we need to learn, grow, evolve, until eventually taking action and impacting our future.
When I began this process, I struggled a lot and usually ended up coming up with nothing. But those struggles eventually led me to stumbling upon the idea of monotheism, the idea that one central being, it just works for me. The idea that monotheism, or the central belief in one God. By God, I don't mean some old white guy, but an inner being that we say is God to help us believe and give us hope. I believe that there's an inner being inside of us that we can't always change or feel, but we can always see it and it'll be there when we need it. I'm a procrastinator, so it takes me a while to get things done, even once I get started, so I tend to get behind and have to rush to catch up. I sometimes almost get in this Zen-type feel, and the work seems to go by really fast, and my parents were confused at why I was so calm and yet moved so fast. For the longest time, I struggled to explain to them. They thought that I was super hyper-focused and panicking. But now I think back to those couple of random nights this past week that I got into that mental space. Now looking back, I believe that I did a couple of things right, but God helped guide me back on path. This was a crazy realization for me, now thinking that this inner being could have such a big idea on my life. I believe God is inside us all, and everyone can worship God differently. I also believe even the smallest things we can do will be to worship God. These small things we do every day make us believe, feel relaxed, or just make us feel better. I don't know what I will believe in time, but this is what I believe right now. I don't know how my beliefs will change, but I can guarantee that my beliefs in relationship with God will be forever changing and will evolve over time.
I will start this speech by giving you background on myself. My dad grew up and his side of the family are Hindu. My parents are now obviously UU, and my grandma on my mom's side is Lutheran. My grandpa is Jewish, and I have friends of all religions. Some cultural memories I have of religious ceremonies growing up are the Hindu festival of Diwali, all the lights and amazing festivities. I remember spinning the dreidel with my grandfather for little candy coins. I also remember in 7th grade not eating lunch because all my friends were fasting for Ramadan. I remember years of Christmases and great Easters with my grandmother. And lastly, I remember spinning the maypole at this very church. So as you can see, they gave me a lot of choices, and I feel that I understand a lot of religions and what they believe and practice. I have been lucky to travel all around the world and see many religions and compelling reasons to join them. So now you have an understanding of who I am and where I come from. It's time for what I believe. I do not practice any religion, and I go to the UU Church for the community, the youth programs, and the donuts. I am not an atheist, meaning I don't believe in God or am opposed to higher beings, but I'm also not practicing any of the religions that I listed. So this begs the question, what am I? I'm what is called an agnostic. For those who don't know what that means, it means I just don't know. It means I don't know if any religion is real or if it's not, and it means I don't understand or pray to any God, but I respect why people do. I am agnostic because I am lucky enough to be a different religion as the rest of my family, which is okay and apparently the status quo. I am still very young and do not feel like I have felt compelled to commit to one religion or set of beliefs. I do think that later in my life I will explore a religion and my spirituality more, but I am not there yet. Now, if you have paid attention to my speech, you will have noticed one consistent theme. That theme is my general lack of knowledge. That is essentially why being agnostic is important to me. I just don't know everything. Matter of fact, I don't know most things. I didn't know if my family would be able to make it today. I didn't know that I was going to procrastinate writing this until I have only a few hours left. I did not know that I was going to attend my freshman year of high school in my bedroom, and I did not know that my mentor, Kelly Ray, would get COVID one day before my speech. I do not know what my life will look like in 5 years, so I hope that illustrates why being agnostic is important to me. I don't know, and I like to embrace that. Being agnostic allows me to broaden my spiritual views and beliefs as an observer and a spectator. If given the opportunity, I will immerse myself in more religions and cultures. In conclusion, my life and beliefs will change as I evolve, and I realize that. Maybe one day I will know all the answers, but right now, I don't know.
So I've never been a believer in a higher power such as God or the will of the universe, but rather a believer in the power and importance of the connections that are made between people. The ability to create new friends and deepen those already created relationships is extremely important to me. Throughout time, and obviously recently through my time in coming of age, I've been thinking a lot about these dear relationships with friends I have, and more so about where these relationships came from. I began retracing the starts of these friendships and how they really came into fruition. And this is where I found the most substantial factor of my beliefs. Imagine 5 friends sitting in a car in the parking lot after getting pizza and ice cream. Initially, the trip to the parking lot had the sole purpose of dropping off my friends and finishing the night. However, it turned into much more. During the short car ride there were stories starting to be told and passed around. As we arrived at the parking lot, we ended up sitting in my car for no less than 45 minutes, just sharing stories about our lives and opening up to each other. Most of these friendships were relatively new, and you never had really time to open up to each other. Through the passing of stories, we ended up all opening up to one another and sharing much more noteworthy stories that only came out at the seemingly random times like these. We had started off with the incredibly superficial act of eating ice cream with each other, yet ended that night being so much closer with many more connections being built. I realized that the shift between the indulgence of ice cream and the sharing of stories didn't come from nowhere. I firmly believe that everybody in the car that night recognized the situation and opportunity to open up and connect on a much deeper level with one another. Some might say this is the soul or spirit connecting, but I don't really believe there's a name that can quantify it. It can happen at any time. The sequence of telling stories, making jokes, and being able to have a serious conversation as a whole group solidified them in my mind as trustworthy and people I want to be around, ultimately securing my belief in the connections I make with anyone. At first, the thought of sitting in a room with people you don't know can be scary, but I realized it can be extremely rewarding. At the Big 9 music competition, a group of students, including me, chose to stay for an extra 5 hours just to listen to the final performance. Naturally, I gravitated towards my friend who was talking to someone else I didn't know at all. Eventually, finding a corner of the room with a friend I was close with and another whose name I had just learned, we began to talk. Breaking the discomfort with childhood stories where I chose to listen immediately made me more comfortable to talk. We ended up all opening up to each other and telling more meaningful stories to each other. As I brought up earlier in my first story, there was a shift from the superficial aspect of telling stories to a much deeper level of connection with each other. There aren't many people I would list off that I could sit through upwards of 5 hours of conversation, especially not people I just met. But that day I was proven wrong. I was able to grow closer with a friend and simultaneously make a new friendship that I'm certain will last, just through the connection we made that day. I became interested in where this shift or change had come from. Looking back through my experiences and retracing these two stories, I searched for what caused the shift to happen. I realized that telling stories is just a simple act of opening yourself up to someone and letting them in. The major shift comes when everyone has reached that level of openness, therefore connecting to everyone much more. The core part of yourself is exposed to others, and parts of each other are permanently planted in each other. My final belief I realized through coming of age is that only when you have fully opened yourself up to someone, and vice versa, that is when you and the others see who you really are.
I believe that music is an essential part of the human experience, not only when it comes to connecting with others, but connecting with ourselves. From a young age, I was surrounded by music in my life, with some of my first memories being my dad singing to me goodnight or dancing to music in my childhood home's basement. I was always invited into making music when I was young and loved listening to it as well, which I believe is an experience that helped to shape my character and growth as a person. Being able to empathize with the feelings of others through lyrics and melodies taught me to learn from and appreciate many people's perspectives and stories. Music can convey such broad topics that it covers almost every emotion and experience that one can have, from heartbreak to the best days of our lives. Growing up in this church, I had the opportunity to not only listen to the music of the choir that my parents sang in, the piano, organ, and string instruments, but also to participate in children's choir, even before I knew how to read the words I was singing. As a 5-year-old, singing in the congregation made me feel like I was connected to something bigger than myself, and I felt connected to the people I was singing to and singing with through the music. Music was a great way to bond with other kids, enjoy the church, and display something that we had worked for. For all the performing in band and choir that I have done in my life, I have to say my favorite part is listening to others tell their stories through their music and listening to the distinctive voices that can sometimes only be shared through music. When I'm feeling down about life, some of my favorite music to listen to is simple music, with just a singer and a guitar, as it reminds me to take life slower and relax a bit. As one of my favorite songs says, everything is going to be all right. These songs sometimes tell tales of woe and struggle that make me feel less alone, and I feel connected to everyone else in the world who may be feeling down as well. As much as I love exciting pop music, sometimes a simple guitar and a person sharing their story can be just what I need in moments of uncertainty and struggle. Another way that I love to connect with music is through dancing. I've done some form of dance since I was 3 years old, in my little blue tutu, just learning how to point my toes and dancing to Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. One of the reasons why I've continued to dance for over 10 years of my life is not just because I love challenging my body and hanging out with friends, but also because dancing allows me to express feeling and emotion through movement, and because there's nothing more therapeutic than going to hip-hop class after a long, frustrating day. Feeling the beat of the music resonate in your bones, dancing at dance competitions where maybe the speakers are set a bit too loud, makes me physically feel the music and connect to it on a different level than you would by just listening. Choreography is also such a benefit to dancing, as good coaches in choreography will create movement that not only tells a story with the dancers to the audience, but conveys the emotion that music can carry, even without any lyrics or spelled out message. The multitude of dance styles is representative of the many kinds of emotion and music that can be listened to and experienced. I believe that there is a time and place for every form of music and dance. For example, while doing an arabesque while listening to Tchaikovsky makes me feel connected to so many others who have done the exact same step and performed the exact same choreography throughout hundreds of years of ballet history. Dancing lyrical feels powerful to me, being able to display emotions and stories of heartbreak or resilience that the music tells. Dancing hip-hop is so fun and energy-filled, fills me with excitement every single time I dance. However, my favorite style of dance is kickline. The experience of being physically connected with all my teammates who all work so hard to perfect a dance routine is something that I truly cannot describe. Feeling not only the energy from the crowd and the energy from each other, but the energy from the music that we dance to brings more excitement and emotions in my memories than I can describe. I believe expressing myself through art, whether it be music or dance, is so important in building memories and providing an outlet for emotion. I believe that music is the greatest communicator of all emotion, of joy, of heartbreak, and of love. I connect certain music with the people I love in my life. For example, whenever I'm out and about and I hear jazz music out at a restaurant, I'll always think of my dad practicing jazz on the keyboard in our basement and how relaxing it feels to me. Every time I hear choir music, whether it be at church or my school's concert, I think of my mom and her love of singing to me, especially when I was young. And every time I hear saxophone in my band class or on the radio, my first reaction will always be to think that's my brother practicing, just like he does whenever he's at home. I believe that music is a wonderful way to communicate, to feel emotion, and to express love to those that we love.
The Youth Fund is one of the ways the church supports the youth. Through this fund, we provide scholarships and monetary support for the youth to attend events that they would otherwise not be able to go on. Through the generosity of the church, we have been able to send youth to leadership schools, youth cons, summer seminaries, pilgrimages to Boston, and General Assembly. Through these experiences, the youth gain a greater understanding of this faith tradition and their place within it, as well as skills, insights, and memories that they will take with them for the rest of their lives. We are grateful for your continued support of the youth and sincerely thank you for your offering.
So I invite the youth to come forward and gather around your chalice flames here in a circle facing the center together.
You have been asked hard, important questions of life, of ethics, of spirituality, reminding us all that the work of the soul is for everyone. You have reminded us that our own responsible, reverent search for truth and meaning is lifelong, and we should attend to it with humor and humility, knowing that wisdom comes from questions and answers and from a sense of wonder and awe at the world's brokenness mingled with its beauty.
So I now invite immediate family or close friends of these youth to come forward, walk forward and place a hand of blessing on your respective youth. Come on up. And those online or distanced away can likewise raise a hand of blessing towards these youth. You families have been these young people's support and guides, offering them love and encouragement, giving them life, kindling in them wonder and hope, and in turn learning from their own life and their growing wisdom.
Those who have taught as teachers and mentors for these youth over the years, in classes, in service projects, as facilitators for OWL and coming-of-age mentors, please place a hand on your heart or raise a hand of blessing toward these youth. You, mentors and teachers, have encouraged wonder, curiosity, hard questions, and community, teaching the stories and practices of who we are and who we are yet to be, and learning from these youth as they have grown.
Invite the entire congregation, place a hand on your heart and off your other hand in blessing toward these youth. You, congregation, are the curriculum through which we all learn. You have held strong the flame of our people through story and through song, through service. You have kept the breath of life and the fire of hope alive, our doors and our hearts and our minds open to these young people, paying attention to the vibrancy, hope, and the prophetic voice that they too bring. So keeping a hand of blessing reaching toward these youth, I invite you into the litany of blessing printed in your order of service. First, with the families of these youth. We kindled your flame, witnessed it growing brighter, and honor and celebrate what you have taught us, who you have become and are yet becoming, and all those who have been teachers or facilitators or mentors together. We tended your flame, offering you stories of wisdom, practices to nourish your soul, and questions to spark wonder, and we learned from you as your own soul grew. And the entire congregation. We kept the flame alive, singing the songs and telling the stories of our people, serving the world in compassion and love, knowing that your presence has shaped our souls and the coming of age youth.
We have nurtured by good teachers and loved ones. We have engaged deep questions of wonder, love, and hope. We have, in honesty and humility, spoken our truth, knowing that wonder and wisdom is our whole life story.
And all together. As you are coming of age, may we all continue becoming our best selves, nurturing spirituality, compassion, and justice. May we all know, may you know, we are beloved, sacred, and whole. And as the youth extinguish their lights, may we remember that as your flame has become our shared chalice, it is always there, And every time we light this chalice, or you light chalices or lights in your own home, the light of our ancestors and our descendants, the light of each of you shines. After the lights are extinguished, I invite the families and youth to return to their seats. And we will sing together, "This Little Light of Mine." I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Yeah, 1, 3, 2, and 4. We'll get there. That's good. I invite you to take a breath, place your hand on your heart as you're comfortable or toward the sky or the earth in gratitude. And know this blessing is always for all of us, but today this blessing is for you. Go yonder, and gather the people. Give them not hell, but courage and hope. Give them something of the love you have found here, and tell all the people that love is our home. May it be so. Amen. You may be seated.
Hear the yell, back to school, ring the bell, brand new shoes, walk 'em loose, climb the fence, books and pens. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Walk with me, Susie Lee, through the park, by the tree. We will rest on the ground and look at all the bugs we found. Safely walk to school without a sound. Safely walk to school without a sound. Here we are, no one else. We walk to school all by ourselves. There's dirt on our uniforms, chasing all the ants and worms. We clean up and now it's time to learn. We clean up and now it's time to learn. Numbers, letters, learn to spell, nouns and books and show and tell. At playtime we will throw the ball, back to class, through the hall. Teacher marks our heart against the wall. Teacher marks our heart against the wall. And we don't notice any time pass. We don't notice anything. Side by side, likes the way you sing. Tonight I'll dream while I'm in bed. Silly thoughts go through my head about the bugs and alphabet. And when I wake tomorrow I'll bet you and I will walk together again. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
And please join us downstairs for cake and for refreshments down in the commons or out in the courtyard.